This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. You know, there's one clip from that wild card game that I just can't get out of my head. One clip that just sticks in there and makes me think that this clip isn't necessarily the exact reason and moment that the Browns knew that they needed to make a change at offensive coordinator, but does signify the larger reason why the Browns felt like they needed to make a change at the offensive coordinator position. Now, I don't want to play the whole clip because I will 100% get copyright strike from the NFL. They don't play no games when it comes to this kind of stuff. So this might have to just be completely cut out the video by the time it uploads. But for the time being, I'm going to try to include it here. But if you can't, I'm going to link it in the description down below, the tweet that I am referencing at the very least. So let's jump here.
You just hang right there and just play the quarterback. Play the quarterback as soon as he snaps, step in front of it, go pick. Yes, sir. I'm telling you.
All right. So the context of this clip is that it's DeMeco Ryans going up to his linebacker, Christian Harris, and telling him, hey, when you see this, hang back. It's going to be there. You can intercept it. Now, from everything that I see here, this looks like it happened at halftime, not right before the pick six, like they suggested, but they made that adjustment and they jumped onto it. And I thought to myself, man, what made DeMeco Ryans think of that? That's such a great idea. And then I was like, you know why DeMeco Ryans thought of that? Because 10 years ago, DeMeco Ryans had to think of that because they ran this same offense at him 10 years ago when he was on the Houston Texans, and they were able to have similar success versus that offense because they made that similar adjustment. Now, look, I'm not going to come here and completely dump on everything that the Browns were able to achieve with Joe Flacco or offensively. That's not my intention here. But the truth is that the Browns were able to have some success with some very old offensive concepts. And that's not to say that Kevin Stefanski's not good at his job or that even Alex Van Pelt isn't good at his job. When they're running that West Coast offense, the Browns were among one of the best teams at being able to run that scheme at a high level. The problem is that the version of that West Coast offense that they were running was an older version of that offense. It was the Kubiak version of that offense, which was the offense that Peyton Manning ran, which is the offense that you go back, like Elway ran it back in the day, all of that stuff. And it's cool, but you run into these problems in the playoffs where so many people have gone up against that offense that you get a coach that's not even thinking about the game plan that they had. He's like, nah, this is what we used to do as a player. This is what I'm telling you. When DeMeco Ryans was linebacker, this is the adjustment that they made. Right? On stick, out of this concept, I know what Joe's going to do because I played against Joe, and this is what Joe tends to do. And I got 10 years of film to look at this, of tendencies to know where he's going to go. And it ended up being pretty predictable. Right? And that's what the one big Achilles heel of the Browns offense has been whenever they have had issues, is that they feel a little predictable. That's been the big problem. And that's why I think they needed to make a change at offensive coordinator. Again, I don't think Alex Van Pelt is bad at his job. If his job is to be a top lieutenant in a West Coast offense, he's one of the best. He knows that offense well. He knows how to add guys in and out of it. He's pretty good at that. What Alex Van Pelt is not good at, and what we've seen, is pushing those kind of offenses forward, right? While other teams were coming up with orbit screens and off-ball motion and RPO to layer it, to play out of more gun, to advance the West Coast offense, Alex Van Pelt's biggest innovation was, let's put Nick Harris into the backfield. The Browns at every level, every time they've tried to innovate this offense and add new concepts, they have had to almost immediately revert back to that old thing, because that's what the staff knew That's what Kevin knew. That's what Alex knew. That's what everybody, they knew that old thing. And the old thing can work, but it's going to be a lot harder as the years go on to make sure. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like having a CRT TV for anybody who games. The CRT TV can still plug into the wall and you can still plug in some games to it. But the more modern stuff you want to do with the CRT TV, the harder it's going to be. And vice versa, right? The more retro stuff you want to do on a modern TV, it's much more difficult. The Browns wanted to advance into a different era on offense, and they just had to move on from Alex Van Pelt. Not his area of expertise. That's not where Alex Van Pelt is really helpful in. So if your goal is to advance this offense and do some of the things that Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and these other offensive coordinators, Matt LaFleur, are able to do and have some of this downfield success and play more out the shotgun, that Alex Van Pelt wasn't the guy. And that goes to what I think the real reason is that the Browns are making a offensive coordinator change. And look, you could put this on, they want to get somebody for Watson, and that's certainly an explanation that you can describe it as. It's one I have before, but you know, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than just wanting to build the offense around Deshaun Watson and his skill set, because it's not just Deshaun Watson that you're hoping to evolve what's going to be known as the Cleveland Browns offense for. It's much bigger than that. The same way it was much bigger than just Lamar Jackson when the Ravens went from Greg Roman to Todd Monken. It's about a change in philosophy. And one of the things I think we forget far too often, because we want to give credit to one person or blame to one person, right? We just want to point fingers. And that's how we talk about sports for whatever reason. But we want to point fingers. We want to say this guy is the problem or this guy is not the problem. And it's everybody else. And we want to point these fingers and say who's right, who's wrong. But coaching, especially coaching, is a collaborative process. And if I have three guys in the room in charge, if I'm the offensive head coach, right? If I'm the head coach, but I'm an offensive guy, I'm going to talk in that room. I have the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. And all three of those guys want to run the West Coast offense, the same Gary Kubiak West Coast offense that we all know. When I look to elevate that offense, or when I look to want to innovate that offense, we're not going to come up with stuff outside of that framework, because we're all thinking about the same thing, right? We all are just West Coast offense. That's the answer. That's what we take from. So when somebody says RPO, that doesn't get in there. When somebody says, hey, let's bring in some motion, that doesn't get in there, right? It's harder to break innovation into the room when you have all three levels of coaches all kind of like, yeah, man, this is what I want to do. It's part of the reason I think Drew Petzing took the offensive coordinator job in Arizona, because you saw Drew Petzing in Arizona. He was able to spread it out, looked way different than what the Browns are running in Cleveland. And you saw more shotgun innovation. I bet Kevin Stefanski saw that and thought to himself, did we really bottleneck this guy? Because we weren't getting that level of input, or maybe we weren't listening to that level of input. And you know, our offense didn't look anywhere near as advanced as Arizona's offense had. And maybe that, to Kevin, he thought to himself, okay, maybe I don't have the right people in the room to achieve the goal that I wanted to achieve, right? Because while they're doing motion and figuring out all these different things and moving guys around and finding out ways to look good with Kyler Murray and Josh Dobbs, we got Nick Harris in the backfield. That's our innovation. We got Nick Harris in the backfield. And I think it was big for Kevin to not just have that realization, but follow through on it, because it would have been real easy, super easy for him to say, Joe Flacco had 300 yards, like 4 games in this offense, and we threw the ball and we had touchdowns, and it ain't the offense. I don't need to change a single thing, because a lot of people would have done that. Instead, he said, no, the problems that exist still exist. We were not a good shotgun team. We need to be a better shotgun team. We were not a good run team. We need to be a better run team. We don't have the greatest pass blocking concepts out of shotgun. We need to be better. We need to bring in people with more expertise in those areas. And if that means I got to get rid of Van Pelt, that means I got to get rid of Van Pelt. If that means I got to get rid of Stump Mitchell, a very respected coach, that means I got to get rid of Stump. And I think that's going to be one of the key things we point to when it comes to what the Browns are going to be able to accomplish next year and why they were able to accomplish it. This, much like Jim Schwartz, will be an inflection point, positive or negative. It will be an inflection point. You made a true blue decision. And why I think this decision is important isn't because some other guy is going to walk in here, become a genius and figure out the offense and call all the plays and make Kevin look obsolete. I think that's what some people are dreaming happens, to be honest with you. I think some people are dreaming that happens because they just want to live in a world where Kevin can get fired. Like, for whatever reason, they set their hearts on that 2 years ago and they won't let it go. And there's a lot of just, I want Kevin fired no matter what, people that watch these videos or that just are Browns fans, period, right? Like they exist. But I don't think that that's going to be the case. Again, coaching is a collaborative process. And I think what you need is more guys with more opinions that are different than the West Coast style that Kevin Stefanski grew up in as a coach, right? Kevin knows that West Coast style. He grew up with Gary Kubiak and that system, and that's his mentor, and that's what Kevin knows. And Kevin knew that in order to evolve the offense, he needs to bring in people who know some different stuff than him, who can have some different influence. And you can't just bring these people in as offensive analysis or analysts or, assistants, because you won't listen to them. They aren't high enough on the thing. You need these guys to have serious clout within the structure of the team. You need them to be at least passing game coordinators. You need them to be the offensive coordinators. You need them to be there in those positions. And that's why I think the Browns made that move, because they realized they needed to evolve. They're looking at Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's evolving. They're looking at Baltimore, and Baltimore's evolving. Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh, but you don't want to end up where Pittsburgh is, right? Where you're just a perennial 9-win team and you get blown out in the first round of playoffs, and that's just who you are. The Browns have greater aspirations of that. They want to be where Baltimore is at. They want to be where Buffalo is at. They want to be where Kansas City. They want to be where the San Francisco 49ers are at. They want to be playing right now. Not just playing right now, too. They want to be playing with real hopes to win it all. And they know in order to win it all, this offense must evolve. In that clip right there, where D'Amico Ryans is able to go back from 10 years of knowledge of playing against Joe Flacco in that exact same offense and know exactly what adjustment to make at halftime in order to turn what is a successful first half for Joe Flacco into a disaster, is the same reason Kevin needed to evolve the offense. And in order for Kevin to evolve it, he needs serious input from other guys. And I think Kev's going to have some input and share some things that he knows well. I think Deshaun's going to have some input and share some things that he does well. And I think the new guy, whoever it is going to have input and share some things that they know well. And they're going to all come together in order to make a newer, more advanced, more evolved version of the Cleveland Browns offense. But that's why the move needed to happen. I don't think it's necessarily because Alex Van Pelt is bad at his job. I don't think it's necessarily because Kevin Stefanski is bad at his job. I don't think it's necessarily because Stump Mitchell is bad at his job, or TC is bad at his job, or any of the coaches that got fired are bad. It's that they were experts in an area that the Browns feel like they need less expertise in, and they need to bring in some outside influence. And that was something that's not guaranteed. It's very hard to get guys to accept that they need to bring in outside influence. But the fact that Kevin Stefanski made that evaluation and decided to do so is a positive step in the right direction. I think that's a good move, that they were able to say, hey, look, Alex Van Pelt's good at what I've been asking him to do the last 3 years. But the fact is that I need expertise in different areas. in order for this offense to evolve. And I think that's what the Browns realize. And I think that's why they're making the choices that they have made. And that's why I think that they're good, smart choices that they're making. I made this point about Lamar Jackson for years. And Raven fans used to get mad at me, but I ended up being right. I always felt like the Ravens were holding back Lamar as a pocket passer by keeping him in that Greg Roman system. That they were limiting his options, and why people didn't think he was a good pocket passer was partly the Ravens' fault because they never put him in a situation to prove them otherwise. Now you see Lamar Jackson thriving outside of that pocket, inside that pocket, everywhere. This is the Browns' chance to evolve, right? Now, will Deshaun Watson take that step? I don't know. But the fact is that in order for any quarterback that you bring in to be successful, you're going to have to be more advanced, because the best quarterback that you've had in here all season was somebody from 10 years ago to run that system. You need to not have to reach 10 years ago into quarterbacks who played in the early aughts to be able to find somebody who could play in that system. You need to find somebody who could do what they're doing now. And whether it's Deshaun Watson or you draft somebody in 2025, they're probably going to need a more modern offense. And that's why the Browns are making a move, not just for Deshaun, but for the next guy as well. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.